I'm going to ask those folks who are on our panel to get ready to jump in here. Cheryl, if you'll unmute your mic. Cheryl Wortley is a member of our program committee. She also started a support group in the Dayton area, which actually draws from much further than Dayton now, especially in this time of Zooming. But Cheryl has helped put together our panel for today. So I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl and the panel. Cheryl, if you'll introduce the folks and talk a little bit about how the next 45 minutes or so are going to progress.
Thank you, Chris. We have 6 panelists today, and they, one person will have, well, 3 people have Parkinson's and 3 people are the caregivers. We have Janet and Dawn, they want to wave, and Sarah and Alan, and Tracy and Bill. I can't see them. Are they on? Did they come on?
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard to see with all these little squares. So what we've done is we have 4 segments of that we're going to ask 2 questions in each segment, and each person's going to answer what how they feel about diagnosis and etc. And they start with the beginning, and then we go through to where they are today. And I think you'll like. You can ask questions in the chat, and we will answer them at the end. I think that's about it. So should we go ahead, Chris? Yes, okay. Who did we say was going to go first? I'll pick on Sarah so I can see her first. Sarah and Alan. The questions are going to be the same for each couple. The 2 questions are, what was your reaction to the diagnosis? Well, let me back up. I apologize. We need to tell who you are, a little bit of your biography, and your diagnosis. You want to go ahead, Sarah and Alan?
Okay. I'm Sarah Penhale. I'm married to Alan Winkler. I'm the one with Parkinson's. We live in Oxford. We're both retired. I'm retired from Earlham College, where I was a science librarian. I like being with my family. I like doing all sorts of crafts. I like cooking, and I love travel.
And I'm a retired history professor. I've taught at Miami. We've been married, Sarah and I, for about 30 years now. And I love to be outdoors in all kinds of physical activities.
Well, my diagnosis came as a complete and total shock. First of all, my symptoms that took me to a neurologist were fairly benign. My arm didn't swing. I thought that was just a curiosity due to a dislocated shoulder. I was having with handwriting problems. I thought maybe that was carpal tunnel. So I went to a neurologist. Her assistant gave me an exam. Then she didn't come in for about 45 minutes. When she did some measuring my stiffness. And then she said, do you know what you have? I said, well, no, that's why I'm here. And she said, well, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is, or the bad news is you have Parkinson's disease. The good news is you won't die from it. The Pope didn't die from Parkinson's. Well, that sent me into shock right away and confusion. And I said, but I don't even know what Parkinson's is. She said, I can't tell you. Everybody's situation is different. I can't tell you what it is. Well, that was just totally shocking. I don't remember what happened the rest of the appointment, but I got out of there, ran back to my work, ran around telling everybody, I've got Parkinson's and I don't even know what it is. Well, the next day, my boss gave me a book saying, oh, for your first year with Parkinson's, which told me this must be a bad disease if you have to have a whole book about the first year. So I found my way to Dr. Espay, and things improved after that. But I did accomplish getting past one of the early hurdles, which is, when do I tell people and what should I tell them? Well, I did that pretty dramatically by going around and telling everyone. My fears were of the unknown. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know when it was going to happen. I thought I was going to be on a quick trajectory downward. I didn't want to have I focused on trivial things, like I didn't want to have an expressionless face. And then I focused on serious things, like I didn't want to have cognitive decline. So I had a lot of concerns when I started out.
I was driving home from Columbus when Sarah went for that first appointment. I was on a committee and she telephoned me. We had cell phones by that time, and burst out that she had Parkinson's. And it took me by surprise because I knew very little about Parkinson's. I didn't know what it was. I didn't really know anybody who had it. And I didn't know what it portended for the future. I changed my itinerary. I didn't come home. I went to Earlham, where Sarah had been working, Earlham College, and was with her when she burst into a committee to announce that she had Parkinson's. It was pretty dramatic. But in the larger sense, I just wasn't at all sure what was going to happen. Parkinson's sounded like something awful, lethal, and I guess my biggest fear was wondering what it portended for Sarah and for our lives together.
Thank you. What were your fears and uncertainties when you were first diagnosed?
I didn't want to be Sarah who has Parkinson's disease. I wanted to be Sarah. That was a big thing that I felt bad about. There was something wrong with having this condition, and I didn't want to have it. I just was so unprepared because I didn't know anything. So I was worried about what was going to happen.
When I was growing up, my mother had cancer. She got when she was about 45, and that lasted for about 13 years. And so basically my life growing up revolved around illness and dealing with that from the time I was in 8th grade. And I guess I was worried about what this meant for Sarah and for us. Was this going to be another journey into a kind of ultimately lethal illness? And that scared me, frankly.
Okay. Let's go to Janet and Don.
Don
Put
is, he's
yourself
tired this
first.
morning. He's sleeping on the couch. So so I will be speaking. So
Well, tell
Don
us
is,
a bit about yourself first.
okay. So I'm Janet. I still teach full time, and I'm committed to helping Don walk this journey. And to me, from the very beginning of when he was diagnosed 10 years ago, I said to Don, the way we're going to approach this is we're going to educate ourselves. And so we immediately, got introduced to Parkinson's Support and Wellness, and we began going to the educational sessions immediately. Anytime I can learn about Parkinson's, I'm learning about it, because to me, the key to Parkinson's is education. And I feel like the more we keep, learning about it and it's going into our brain, the better it can stick, and the better we can share it with other people when we're out in the community and they say, oh, my uncle was diagnosed with Parkinson's. Then I feel like part of my job also is to spread the word about Parkinson's Support and Wellness, which I always do. And then just to give people hope that we are so fortunate in this area to have Parkinson's Support and Wellness. You see, the Parkinson's support in this area is really phenomenal. So if you talk with people in other parts of the country, they will say, wow, we don't have that support for Parkinson's. Wow, we don't have that support. So all of us here on this Zoom, I just want to really put out there that we are so fortunate to have all of the support that we have in this area. And so that's one positive note to just put into your heart, that we are so lucky we have that. So anyway, so about Don. So he was diagnosed 10 years ago. And I would have to say, when I can look back, I can see that there was a cognitive decline going on before actually his tremor on his right arm came about, because he would be at work and he wasn't able to learn new parts of his job. So he would lose his job, get another job. Cognitively, he just wasn't able to learn new parts of his job. So we got the diagnosis, and his mom had Parkinson's and my dad had Parkinson's, and so, but they were older. They were in their 80s when they were diagnosed. So for Don to be diagnosed like 53, that's, you know, considered like young onset. But I don't think we were as afraid because we saw, each of us saw a parent with it. So, so we just, I'm with him at all of his appointments. I've been with him at all of his appointments through it all. I feel like we have to be a team. And my biggest thing is education, that education is the key. For the Parkinson's person, I know that exercise is the key, and that is stated at every single Parkinson's educational session we go to, exercise. But for me as the caregiver, education, I'm going to keep educating myself.
What were your fears and uncertainties?
I think Don was fearful of how fast things were going to happen. When he did have to stop working and then, you know, go on disability, emotionally, that was hard for him not to be able to work anymore. That was a hard part. Being out around people, like when his gait has changed, using his step 2 walker. He doesn't always want to use that. He just doesn't want to have to use it. He wants to try not to use it, but in reality, he should use it. He was just concerned about what everyone out in the world was going to think about him because, you know, the Parkinson's, you know, so, you know, of course, the whole facial being drawn down. Because Don was a smiley person, and Don was a joking around person and a fun-loving person. And with Parkinson's, that has changed his personality. He doesn't smile as much as he used to, and that's sad for me. But I know it's all part of Parkinson's. And the other part of this is that we have to keep reaching another level of acceptance. So as his Parkinson's is progressing, we're always having to accept, okay, now his walking is more challenged. You know, the constipation, the urination issues, sleeping a lot. There's just always more acceptance that has to go on as you're living this Parkinson's journey.
That is so true. Okay, we will move on to Bill and Tracy.
I'm Tracy. I am Bill's wife. He's kind of rolling around here, but so here he is. He's coming on camera. So this is Bill.
Hi,
Hi, Bill.
my name's Bill Polk. I was diagnosed in 2013 at age 48, young onset Parkinson's. I'm not really on my best self right now, but I'm doing the best I can. It's one of those things. Sometimes you're off during the day, sometimes you're on. Hard to predict sometimes.
Yep.
So I retired 2 years ago from Wright State as an accountant, and trying to make the adjustment to retirement as well as to the changing condition of my Parkinson's disease. My main reaction to the diagnosis was the denial. It's one of those things, like I've always been a hypochondriac, so I go to see the doctor, there's a problem, and there was no problem. So I figured, well, it's one of those things. I made a mistake. I asked him to do some more tests, check for, you know, maybe I was kind of hoping for a tumor or something, but it seems ridiculous. But they ran the test, and the doctor I first saw up here, he took a brief look at me, and he knew it was Parkinson's. And I went down and saw Dr. SB down in UC in Cincinnati, and he confirmed it. So he ran all the tests, and Parkinson's is what it has been all this time. My fears and uncertainties. Say, what would it mean for my employment? How long would I stay employed? You know, I may want to. At first I did not feel like is there any change. There was not much difference from what before it was diagnosed. It didn't really progress right away. So I stayed employed as long as I could. And I thought, what does that mean for retirement? I had to retire early. How am I going to pay? How am I going to pay for the rest of my life? How did it affect myself? Like maybe me being able to take care of myself. How effective would I be? Effect on my wife and daughter, and how would it progress? You know, Dr. Espy said it progressed slowly, and should be able to, with the proper medication, be able to lead a relatively normal life.
And we haven't found that to be true.
Hmm. Well, Tracy,
So I'm Tracy. When Bill was first diagnosed, we were both working. I'm a teacher and he was, as he said, an accountant. When he first, and he even mentioned he was kind of a hypochondriac, so I didn't have to bring that up. But when he was going to all these different doctors, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, it's pulled muscle, come on. And then when he came home and told me, you know, we were both kind of in shock and both in denial. And he wasn't real symptomatic at first. And so it was just kind of like, well, okay. And we were kind of told young onset, he will respond very well to medication. He won't have as many symptoms. And so at first I was just kind of like, well, okay, things are pretty much going on as normal. I had a cancer diagnosis about 4 months after his diagnosis. So then all the focus kind of went to me for about probably a year. And it seems like maybe every couple of years, you know, as he goes, it's like he kind of like has, I don't want to say a breakdown, but, you know, things progress. So that was pretty much the reaction. I remember he would tell me, I would say, well, can I tell anybody that you have Parkinson's? And he would say, well, you can tell them I've been diagnosed with Parkinson's, but not that I have it. So, you know, we were still kind of not wanting to believe it. Fear and uncertainty, I would say I was very, very naive. Totally opposite from Janet. I like a lot of what she said. I mean, I was like, no, I don't want to go to a support group because I don't want to see what's going to happen. You know, I would rather let me just deal with what I have to deal with now. I don't want to be anxious and worried about what's to come. It'll come when it comes. And so that was kind of my reaction. In some ways it was good at the time, but in some ways I probably should have educated myself a little better.
okay, thank you. We'll go to segment 2. We'll start with Sarah and Alan again. What the 2 questions are, what has the reality been and how different is it from what you thought?
Well, I guess I would summarize it by saying it's been better than I thought it would be, and it's been worse than I thought it would be. I'll start off with the better part. Early on, I was diagnosed 14 years ago. Early on, I didn't have really too many symptoms that caused me problems, and I was able to do everything that I wanted to do, including taking students to Kenya for a semester-long program. And that's pretty rigorous and stressful and all the things you're not supposed to experience if you want to keep your Parkinson's in control. But I didn't have any problems. But then I began to have some more problems with forgetting things and having to urinate often, and my handwriting never improved. So there were some things that were going along, but not too bad. But then 3 years into it, I tried to lead another trip of students to Africa. And that time I just couldn't do it. I began to have dyskinesia. Dr. Espy tried to get me amantadine in Nairobi, Kenya, and it was all hectic and just a mess. And I had to come home, and Alan had to finish out the semester, and I had to live with friends. So that was pretty grim. And everything was going haywire at that point. I was having to change my medication. That's going to lay me out flat. I developed orthostatic hypotension, which is when you faint when you're standing up. So one time I was traveling and I fainted in the airplane aisle. I fainted in the jetway getting off. I was just having all sorts of problems. I had a car accident where I thought either I nodded off due to one of my drugs or I fainted due to the hypertension. So I was a mess, and it took at that point I retired at the end of the academic year, and so I spent the next, I don't know how long it took to get things straightened out, but I did, and I have resumed my usual life, except I'm retired, so it's a lot less stressful. And so I sort of put that back into the category of better than I thought, that I could go through all of that and come out fine at the end. And so I'm hopeful that when things start to go haywire again, or whatever happens, I will be able to stay with it and be pretty much myself in some ways.
When Sarah was first diagnosed, I was still working. And so she began to do Parkinson's dance program, but I couldn't do that. It was during the working day. She began going to a support group in Cincinnati. And in the beginning, I didn't do that, but then I kind of kicked into gear. I still didn't really know what was going on, and it took me quite a while. I retired within the next couple of years, but before that, the experience in Africa that she had talked about was really rough. We were leading a program with 21 students, and she left in September because she simply couldn't handle it anymore, which left me with the students in Africa for the next 3 months. And as she was going through her difficulties, and they were profound and serious, and she had to go home, I was off worried about her, but also trying to deal with a strange situation that was not what I had bargained for. So that was difficult. Now our lives are more stable. We're both retired. We have made friends with people in the Parkinson's community, and that has been enormously important. These people really are our support structure. In many cases, some of our closest friends at this point. And that's been gratifying, and it's really been terrific. Around home, I find I'm doing even more than I did before, necessarily, and I don't mind doing that at all. It's a matter of rolling with the things that are happening and having to learn how not to be frustrated at forgetfulness, at not sleeping as well because Sarah's not sleeping well. But it's simply a matter of accepting those things and trying not to get frustrated by them and going on. And on balance, I think we're doing pretty well. And I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Acceptance seems to be a theme I'm hearing from everybody. I agree with that. You have to keep accepting a lot of things. We will go to Janet next. Same questions.
So the reality of it has been that, Don sleeps a lot, and for me, that's lonely. When he does any kind of a task, everything is done very slowly. And so when he sleeps a lot, I have to tell myself that's Parkinson's. When it takes him a long time to empty the dishwasher, Janet, that's Parkinson's. To fold the laundry takes a long time, Janet, that's Parkinson's. I'm more of a move it, get it done, and move it on to the next task. So with Don having Parkinson's, I have to slow down my thinking, and I have to really understand that for him to do those chores, like that makes him feel like he has purpose within our household. The reality of it is I'm doing much more of all of the other stuff around the house. So we have a dog, so that's part of it. just the cleaning, the laundry, the trash, all of that, falls on me. And I'm a energetic, strong person. But there's some days where I think, oh, some days I don't want to have to do everything. The reality is also where, like, I'll want to go someplace and he'll say, you know what, my balance is off today. Like, I really don't want to go. So I'm more of a social person. So I want to get out and do things. And there are some days he doesn't. And then there'll be days where he'll say, you go ahead and go. Like, I'll just stay home. I want to stay home. I know you want to go. So that took me a while to be able to go places without him, because we always socially went places together. But he really convinced me I need to just go on and do it. And I do need to just go on and do it. So as the caregiver, we truly need to take care of ourselves. But since I am the social person, it is important that I go out and do that. But I needed him to say to me, it's really okay. Go ahead and go out and do that. It's just not something I want to do. And the other reality is part of Don's is some depression. So that can be challenging. I'm more of a positive based person. I'm also a teacher, like Tracy, and I was raised by a positive mom. So that's part of me. So with Don, with the Parkinson's, like some negativity comes in and some depression, and then just that he just doesn't have the desire to push himself to do something. So here I am where I'm a doer, and that's really not who Don is now that the Parkinson's is, a huge part of our life. So that's a hard reality to accept. But, you just have to grow with this Parkinson's. You have to grow and change with this Parkinson's, is I guess what I would say.
I think that's true too. Okay, Bill and Tracy, same questions.
The reality.
Reality has been not much changed at first. I felt that things were pretty normal. I didn't have any it didn't even start on levodopa right away. I started on a patch, a Dupro patch. I didn't start on anything at first. I went to like a dopamine agonist, which doesn't replace the dopamine. It just helps the body produce more dopamine, I believe. But then it progressed more quickly than I thought it would. It usually go along for a while, maybe like steady state, and then it'd be a jump, a change. You'd be at a new normal low. You never go back. It's like, so something changed, maybe a traumatic event, or just instant stress triggered something, or just hard to say what triggers the disease to change. But it had jumps in it, and a lot of times I had difficulty getting the medicine to work. I either had too much medicine going in my system, I get jerky, or it would be insufficient. I guess one thing I was told later on was I have a brittle response to the medicine and to my condition. It just means it affects me really dramatically, and changes really affect me dramatically. So,
Was it different than you thought?
let's see.
How different is it from what you thought?
I guess, I mean, the meds first they work okay, and then you have to keep changing them. Kind of like sometimes there'd be so many changes you'd have to work with a doctor. You can, I make some changes myself and have to start communicating with the doctor, or just medicine is first it works okay, and then it's not enough, and then you change it and it doesn't work, and it gets rather disconcerting. You have side effects, more dyskinesia, more dystonia. What you doing?
Well, I kind of alluded to it at first. What's the reality been? It's been a lot more than I originally thought. We have both since retired. I retired just regularly retired. He retired, I guess, a disability retirement. And he's progressed a lot quicker than I thought. I hate to say this, but like in my head, it's like, you don't handle this well. I'm always like trying to, like, can't you handle this better? Can't you handle your symptoms better? I need to be a little bit more compassionate. But it's been a total life change. I thought we would retire and travel and go and do. And, we have a daughter in college, and I never dreamed I would be moving her in by myself. So, yeah, it's been very different and difficult for me. So I guess that's it.
Thank you, Tracy and Bill. We're on to segment 3, and I just want to remind everybody, if you want to ask a question, you could start putting questions in and we will answer them after segment 4. Okay, so we are back to Sarah and Alan. What steps did you take to help your partner or help each other? And how did you help each other learn? What was it? I can't read my writing. What steps did you help to take part? What steps did you take to help your partner?
You also asked.
And what steps did
to manage the partner.
manage? Yes, sorry.
Well, early on, one of my problems was just being depressed and apathetic, and I had regular office visits with Dr. Espay, and finally he said, I can't do anything more for you. I'm going to send you to this neuropsychiatrist. So I went to Dr. Henry Kenkel, and he helped me get my mind around things, which made a huge difference. So I learned early on to go to people for help. And of course, I started exercising. I did the dance class, which was a lot of fun. I'm still doing that. Lately, I've done rock steady boxing, which is fun. And I had a personal trainer who was immensely helpful to me in terms of getting physically better and just mentally better as well. So all of those things helped. I guess making new friends was one of the main things that was important to me. I found that I really couldn't talk to my good friends about it too much. It was hard to know what to say to them, because what can they say except, gee, that's too bad. I'm sorry it's happening. They couldn't relate anything to anything more in more detail. So I didn't depend on them from that. And I started going to support groups. Somehow I don't know how I got going on this, but that became a set of people with whom I could talk about things, who did have an understanding and could be very helpful to me. So I learned that it's important to maintain and develop all sorts of new relationships. But it's still a struggle to manage everything. When you were talking about having to wait while Bill gets his laundry folded and all of that, I'm slow at everything. It takes me forever to put my shoes on. I don't feel like folding the towels, so I might not fold the towels. Alan will fold the towels. He's been immensely patient. I just can't believe how many times I've asked him where my cell phone is, or how many times I've said, what time are we leaving? So trying to keep things on balance between the two of us is important to me. And I don't know how I can ever make up for all that you're going through at this point.
Yes, I've just come to think of my role as trying to be as helpful as I can to let Sarah flourish. As I've seen lots of other people with Parkinson's, she's really doing very well. It's been a dozen years, but the more I can contribute to letting her lead as normal a life as possible, with as much medication as is necessary and the like, that's what I want to do. I've had to learn, and it hasn't been easy, to be much more patient. 2 or 3 times a week when Sarah misplaces either her car keys or her cell phone, I've learned not to be irritated by that, but just to kind of kick into gear and look for it and usually find it. And that's okay. I'm actually happier not to be impatient or irritated in ways I might have been 10 years ago. And I see us as a team working together, and that's simply my life right now. We've been lucky. We have been able to travel up until COVID. I hope we'll be able to continue for the foreseeable future, but it's been okay.
Thank you, Alan and Sarah. Janet, same questions.
So with managing Don's Parkinson, so I have a binder. So this goes with me to every doctor's appointment, every time we go to the hospital. So to me, it's important that I keep track of all of his appointments, you know, what the doctors say. Don has gone to some exercise classes. He's not a big exerciser, but if I can encourage him, he won't do it inside our house, but he will go other places. So there was a place before COVID that met on Wednesday, so I could get him to go to that. Through St. E's, we're in Kentucky, so through St. E's, he's gone to some physical therapy. He did do the LSVT program where it met 4 times a week. And that consistency really got him to a better spot. So our son got married last January before COVID. And so Don did that LSVT program before the wedding so that he'd be able to really be high functioning at the wedding. So then after that was over, then eventually we just did some other PT through St. E's. There's one PT person that he really likes. And so because he likes her, he's willing to go back. So we now just started back to PT. He had some foot surgery in December. So now we just started back with that. And then she wanted to go ahead and do the LSVT program again. But since I'm teaching full time, I can't do that, you know, 4 times a week for 4 weeks. So we're going to do that in the summer because our daughter's getting married Labor Day weekend. So we're going to get them all juiced up so that he'll be able to walk her down the aisle and have his dance with her in the beginning of September. So we'll do the LSVT right before that and get him all going. In terms of medicine, he's had to go, you know, from carbidopa, levodopa. Then we did the carbidopa, levodopa during the day, and then, you know, the CR at night. So now he actually is on Rytary. And Rytary is very, very expensive. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was another way for us to manage. So there are different foundations you can apply for medication. So we got some financial assistance from PAN, and then we got some assistance from the Assistance Fund. So it's very easy to apply for this. And then this wonderful guy over at UC named Joe, he said, I can take care of ordering that Rytary for you. So he's going to manage that for us. And I just thanked him, like, here's this little angel from UC named Joe who's going to do that for us. And I was just so thankful because, you know, I'm managing Don's other medicines, and that was just a nice break. So our neurologist was Dr. Webb here in Northern Kentucky, and he was excellent for us. But then Dr. Webb said, you know, we're to the point now where you've got to jump over to UC and you got to go to the movement disorder specialist. And so he got us going with Dr. Duker. So we are working with Dr. Duker now, and they are recommending a DBS. So we're in the beginning stages for the DBS. Now, Don had a DBS already. He's got OCD. So Don already has a DBS for his OCD. So now he's going to be a very special person, and he's going to get a DBS for his Parkinson's. So 2 more holes, you know, another battery pack, more wiring, the bionic man he will be. But, you know, as things have progressed, I have just known that from all of this education that I keep learning from Parkinson's Support and Wellness and through UC and our doctor with St. E's, is that you got to roll with how this is going. So, when Don's walking got more challenge, then we had to deal with that, with the constipation. You had to deal with that. He doesn't really have the smell, so I just feel like we're always rolling with it.
Janet, can you tell us what LSVT is?
That is, it's the exercise program where it's called the big movement. Patty, can you help me with that? There we go. See where it says big, LSVT big. It's a research-based exercise program for people with Parkinson's and neurological. Thank you, Chris. So it's just a specific exercise program for people with Parkinson's that St. E's provides, and then our insurance will pay for it. The whole thing with Don is Don doesn't want to have to pay for any program. Like, we looked into the boxing, and Don's like, oh, that's going to cost too much money. Okay, we don't do the boxing. But since we can get PT through St. E's and our insurance will cover it, Don is willing to do it. If we have to pay extra for it and our insurance won't cover it, Don says no go flow. So we always have to do something where our insurance will cover part of it, and then Don will do it.
Thank you, Janet. And for having taken some of those classes, I know they want your movements to be big, not just like a little bit of arm movement. You have to move all this way and that way. It's hard to see on the, so that's been my experience with it.
Can I just
Okay.
interject? The
Yes.
LSVT stands for Lee Silverman Voice Treatment. Lee Silverman Voice Treatment. So it started out with a specific person who did research on different vocal exercises. And then it gradually moved into LSVT Big. So it was LSVT Loud for speech, and now it's LSVT Big for therapy.
Thank you, Maureen. Tracy and Bill, same questions. What steps did you help take each other, and how did you manage your symptoms?
Well, like Janet said, I have a notebook I take to every appointment, and I'm the note taker, and make sure that I get everything down. As we have said at the beginning, things were pretty stable. And although I will say, we didn't really research anything, look into finding out any information. I guess we didn't really know. We've learned a lot now. One of the things, as things have progressed, he takes a lot of medication, and on Sunday morning I sit and get all the pill carriers out, and I fill them up for the next week. It was peace of mind for me. And then I, tell him, okay, we need to reorder this. And he usually gets on his laptop and takes care of reordering things. One thing I will say as a caregiver that I have found is make sure you know how the bills are paid. Make sure you know every password that man uses or woman uses, because sometimes it happens quick. And sometimes you find yourself, oh, well, he's always paid the bills and he pays them on the computer. Last time I paid bills, I just wrote a check. And so, I had to make sure that I knew how to do all that. And unfortunately, it was like we knew we needed to teach me and we hadn't gotten around to it. And then a crisis hit. And so I was learning on the fly. And that would be one thing that I would tell any partner is anything that your spouse does that needs to be done for the household, make sure you can do it. Also, I am very much, you can't do that anymore. I'll do it. And then you get a point where it's like, well, I'm doing everything, and you almost crash. And so kind of get into your head what you're willing to do and what you need to maybe source out. Like, right now I pretty much do it all, but I know there'll be a time when I'm like, I don't think I'm going to cut the yard anymore. Or, I really like cutting the yard, but I don't like cleaning the house. So maybe we'll get someone to come in and clean the house. Or I'm really busy on this one certain day. So you know what? let me go get sandwiches for dinner instead of me trying to make everything. So I think as a caregiver, especially if you're like me and you're like, I'll do that. Oh, I do that. I'll do that. Really keep in mind where your stop point is going to be, because then if you're like me, you find then you just break down and have a big old, poor me, whiny crying session. So I'll turn it over to him. What steps do you take to manage?
Well, I think exercise is number one. That's my favorite kind of thing to do. I've always enjoyed exercise. I used to play tennis a lot. That unfortunately that had to go by the wayside. I found that I wasn't coordinated enough to play it anymore. But there's plenty of exercise programs now that I've been getting into. I mean, I've done rock steady boxing at the Bethany Lutheran Village, and they're actually going to be starting up again here in the next month or two on a smaller class basis. But in the meantime, I mean, COVID was interesting because it kind of made things better in a way online. Right now, there's plenty of good resources on YouTube. There's yoga programs. There's things just for Parkinson's on there that are really good exercises. It's not as good as having it be in person, but I've also found a couple resources. One was out of Texas, I think, or one was out of maybe California or somewhere out there. One was out of Oregon that they're live. You can do it in person, get direct feedback. So that's been good. There's also at the Neuro Rehab and Balance Center here, there's physical therapy, which I really enjoy. And there's one person there I really enjoy working with. She works well with me. So occupational therapy. There's speech therapy, which is very important. I've been doing a Parkinson's voice project online during this COVID thing, and I think it's going to continue after. It's going to continue on. You can do it. It's live if you're there at the time, but they save the recording so you can do them later. They don't see you, but you see them. You do all the speech exercises for an hour, and it's a very important thing to do. Started getting more into support groups. I didn't at first. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone at work. I just kept it secret, but now I'm just getting into support groups, get in touch with people. Let's see.
And I would say, I never understood why I didn't want to tell anybody, because it got to the point where it's like, something's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
And, are you wanting them to come to their own conclusions as to what's going on with you? Don't you think you should tell? And he eventually did.
I eventually told people, like my supervisors at work, I started with them. So, they should know. I mean, they know, no, I'm not not on drugs. I'm not coming to work drunk or whatever. I mean, there's actually, when it becomes obvious, you have to tell somebody. And it was actually good. I did, because they were very supportive. So people are more supportive than you think sometimes.
I think we're done on that.
Thank you. We have about 9 minutes left. So do we want to look at questions, Chris? Or do we want to do segment 4?
We have one question, so I'd say go ahead and jump into segment 4. We might have to compress it a little bit. I do want to thank everybody for your patience and your endurance. We're in almost to a 2-hour point. Everybody's done great, and we've held on to most of our audience. Only a few people have had to slide away. So why don't we go ahead and do segment 4, try and make it quick, and then that'll leave time for a couple more questions. And then we'll also learn about what's next.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Sarah Allen, how do you live your life and what resources do you use?
Well, I'd have to say, I live my life thinking about Parkinson's each and every day. It's just impossible not to be aware of how long it takes me to get dressed, how easy it is to forget names, how scary it is to feel like you're going to be talking and not come up with the right word. There are all sorts of things that are tough, not waking up and not knowing if I'm going to feel depressed or apathetic. Just endless changes. But overall, I'm able to do pretty much what I want. So I'm outwardly doing okay, but inwardly there's a lot of stuff going on. And I realized that in a way I've made Parkinson's sort of a theme for my life, because I've been very involved with the Parkinson's Support and Wellness Group in Cincinnati, and that's been very important to me in terms of giving me an outlet for my intellectual interests and giving me a chance to help other people the way I've been helped. So it's both a negative element of my life, but also a very positive element in my life.
For me, the most important thing to keep being able to do everything at home and helping Sarah is to do some things for myself. I do like walking the dog. I'm still writing a few things, newspaper things, an essay for a book. I'm playing a bunch of music. I'm teaching a course in our Institute for Learning and Retirement. I'm doing a bunch of things for Miami alumni with my guitar, all online. I hate Zoom, but it keeps me going to be able to do at least a semblance of the kinds of things I used to do before.
Thank you. Janet?
One of the resources, and I'm sure all of you already subscribe to this, but Brain and Life, this is free, and you can have the physical copy mailed to your house, or you can do it online. Personally, I like the physical copy because this is something I can read here and there and everywhere. So if you don't already subscribe to this, please do, because I read this from cover to cover, even if it's articles not about Parkinson's. Very, very interesting. The other part I agree with Tracy about as the caregiver. There was a time, maybe about a year and a half ago, where I just realized I couldn't do everything. And so everyone is always asking, how can we help? How can we help? And, I had to dig into my little humble pocket of myself and just realize that I did need help. So I still teach full time. I love teaching. Like, that is what still fills me. I still want to keep teaching because it's what I am meant to do. I know God has made me a teacher because that is what I am to do. So we have some family members that make meals for us, family and friends, a couple times a week. And our daughter does some light house cleaning on Friday. And our son and daughter, come and spend time with Don. But for me, I make sure I exercise every day. I make sure I pray every morning. So every morning I chunk out 15 or 20 minutes before I go to work. Prayer is important no matter what religion you are, whoever you call God. To me, that quiet time I have in the morning with prayer is what has kept me going. I try to eat healthy foods because when I eat healthy foods, I feel better. I can have more patience with Don. And I like Tracy's about the word compassion. Some days it's hard to find compassion because you're frustrated and you're mad at Parkinson's and you're, oh. But if I exercise and pray and eat healthy every day, I have more patience with Don. I have more compassion with Don. So as caregivers, it's so important we take care of ourselves, and it's so important that we accept help from people. And, the support that I get from other people who are in this Parkinson's world, that support, this sharing, like all of this is just top notch. So thank you.
Bill and Tracy, same questions.
Life.
I'd say right now my life has become very restricted as far as where I go. I don't go out much. COVID obviously is part of that, but I didn't go out much before anyways. It's just all the different symptoms I have, not willing to be out there and then freeze up and have difficulty getting around, get some kind of anxious and afraid to go out by yourself. Am I gonna be in the middle of the store and be off, freeze up, and not be able to get out of there, or get embarrassed, or I say I reach out to other people. I've reached out to people lately that I haven't seen like one friend of my brother's I hadn't seen in 30 years. I reached out to him. He has Parkinson's, so he lives in Florida, and we've been talking. And I regularly get together with my friend. Try to do it every week and play a game. I spend a few hours together. Let's see, where am I here?
What resources? You've already talked a lot about that.
Well, I say the smartphone and the tablet, like a iPhone, iPad, or I mean, they're much better than a laptop. You can be anywhere. You can pay your bills. You can talk on the patient portal. It's if you can be computer literate, I mean, even with a tablet or something, it's a great way to manage your information and your responsibilities. It's look to get a good team of doctors together, not just your neurologist, but everyone who's your doctors. They should have some familiarity or willing to learn about Parkinson's from your GP on down.
Because as you go along, he has a gastroenterologist, a urologist, a thisologist, a thisologist. So yeah, he unfortunately has one of the lesser symptoms. He has a lot of GI problems. He has a lot of digestive issues. And that really is one of his most crippling things. And we are still working with that. It just, you know how it is when your stomach cramps and you're bloated and you have a belly ache. He has that all the time. That really affects his walking and a lot of his stuff.
Another thing I would say is, budget your time well. Learn to budget your time well. You get limited time when you're on, so budget your time so that you're on. You can do important things when you're on and get them done. Try to keep your goals simple and find little hacks, find easier ways to do things. Find some hacks to do things an easier way. Maybe there's a complicated way and you find an easier way to do it. It's good enough. So I think that's all I've got.
I will say, number one, I've learned a lot today. It's really been helpful to hear other people. I know myself, I've had a counselor that I've gone to, not currently because of COVID. I don't like it over the phone, but that's really helped. And she told me one time, I'm like, why am I feeling this way? And she said that I was going through the stages of grief, and I was grieving our life of what I thought it would be. I was grieving my husband because he's now not like he was. And so that kind of helped. And I noticed that as I look at it, I've gone I was really in an anger stage for a long time. And I kind of get back into it sometimes, but I've kind of gotten through that. And I know, Janet seems so compassionate. And so I don't know, it's really, really neat to hear all the things that she said. And but that's helped me.
Thank you very much all to Sarah and Alan and Janet and Tracy and Bill. You guys were wonderful. We have a question, I think, if I can read it.
The question to the panel and anyone else is, when you lose your smell, do you lose your taste also? I see Elizabeth nodding.
I don't think I lost my taste, but maybe I just like to eat enough that I think I'm tasting it.
All right. Well,
Don has also, but the thing to remember with Parkinson's is that everybody is so different. So I can say Don has lost taste and smell, but the most important thing to remember is that it's different for every single person with Parkinson's. So it can be a part of your Parkinson's, or it might not be a part of your Parkinson's.
That was me asking. The reason I asked is I had COVID. I keep losing my taste. It comes and goes. So
in my experience, Bill, I don't hear losing the taste very often.
Okay.
Occasionally, but not as often as loss of smell, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we don't have any other questions right now. Again, I want to thank everybody for their patience, but if you have found this program interesting and or helpful, you might have the question of, okay, what's next? And our program committee is always thinking along those lines and listening to folks who are asking for new services or new help. And so I'm going to introduce Elizabeth Grover, who is a member of the board of directors of Parkinson's Support and Wellness, well known in our community. And she and the program committee have developed a follow-on to this program called Beyond the Basics. So Elizabeth, if you will, tell us a little bit about Beyond the Basics and what's going to happen and what's available over the next few weeks.
Okay. During this program today, you've heard a lot of information about Parkinson's that can help you understand what's happening to you or your loved one, but it may soak in gradually. And over time, more questions are likely to pop up. And although your doctor can answer some, you may need somewhere to look for more information and support as the months and years go by. To help you with the foundations of such support, we're offering, after today's basics program, we're offering a program called Beyond the Basics. This will be a 3-session program that will offer details about resources both in the community and afar to answer those questions. And we'll tell you what we think are the vital next steps to on your PD journey, including a discussion of care partners and an introduction to the concept of support groups. Anyone with Parkinson's or their care partners and family and friends are welcome. This program will begin by Zoom next Saturday, a week from today, March 27th at 2 p.m. And then we'll continue on two Saturdays in April, the 17th and the 24th.
So I would point out to everyone that if you are interested in attending, we do need you to register. The registration process is a little bit different than it was for the for the basics of Parkinson's. If you can reach out to Elizabeth at her email, loveitgrover@gmail.com. You should see it there at the bottom of our flyer. Or you can reach out to her via phone at 513-379-1196. Or you can contact us at the office. Our office number is 513-558-0113. Our email is info@parkinsoncincinnati.org. And we'll get you signed up for that. You'll receive an invitation to the meeting. It will contain the link similar to how you joined in today's presentation. So thanks, Elizabeth. I know we've already got some people who have signed up. I encourage everyone to consider doing that. We're over our time, so I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want to make sure that everybody knows that we are available. We are a small organization. We are not affiliated with any national organization, although we're friends with many of them. We are regional in nature, so think of this geography of northern Kentucky, southwest and central west Ohio, and southeastern and central eastern Indiana. When I say a small organization, we have 3 part-time employees. Everything else that we do is thanks to volunteers who volunteer their time to make all of these things possible. You can find us at parkinsoncincinnati.org. You'll notice that we list our mission, if you will, as learning, moving, and sharing. So if you want to learn more about Parkinson's and services that are available to you, just find it there on that link. For moving, we talk about exercise classes. Steady Strides is our annual fundraiser. That's going to happen in the fall this year. More to come on that. Sharing, we list support groups. Under both moving and sharing, you can find the exercise and activity programs. We list them by neighborhood, those programs that are online, also exercise by day of the week. You can download this list or you can click on any one of them to find out what's going on in your neighborhood, what's available. You'll see this kind of information. It's a similar setup for support groups. I think one of the things that we heard from Dr. Hill, that we heard from our panel, is that exercise is the best medicine for Parkinson's. And I think the other thing we heard is that sharing your experiences with others and sharing their experiences as well is maybe the second best medicine for Parkinson's. So please take advantage of the Beyond the Basics program that we'll meet starting next Saturday. Please find us on the internet. You can call us at 513-558-0113 or email us at info@parkinsoncincinnati.org. If you have any questions, if there's any way we can be of service. Thank you so much for participating today. Dr. Hill has left us already, but thanks to her and the folks at UC Health who support us in so many different ways. Thanks to our panel, and a big shout out to the folks on our program committee. You guys are rock stars. You make this happen all the time, and I'm just so humbled to get to sit in on your meetings once a month.